So here it is, my 2023 Subaru WRX. Got it in World Rally Blue to be able to match the STI. This is the main reason why I parted out and sold the hatchback. I've had like 40 plus EJ based cars. I've had a couple FA20 WRXs. I've had a couple FA20 based BRZs, FRSs. I had the new BRZ with the FA24 and I really liked the FA24 in that car in a naturally aspirated suit. So I figured I want to learn more about the FA24s. I want to modify them a little bit. This is the future of what Subaru is doing. So to stay with what's current in the world of Subaru, we're gonna do some FA24 stuff. So I got the 2023 premium model. I couldn't justify spending an extra $4,000 on a limited for the Harman Kardon system and the sunroof. It just didn't make sense to me. But I also didn't want a base because I don't like that whole split like touch display thing. So I wanted just the singular iPad looking thing. Now let's start things off with the styling on the car. There is a lot of plastic cladding. I am definitely not a fan of it, but I mean, I've learned to hate it less than I did. These fender arches, I know there's people making aftermarket color matched ones. I've seen some with color matched ones that look good. I've seen some with color matched ones that look awful. I think it's hit or miss based on the rest of the styling of the car. I don't know if I will be doing them or not at some point, but we're gonna make this thing look way better than it currently does. Front end of the car, I don't actually hate. In all the photos of when Subaru released the concept of this thing, the headlights looked way too small for the front end. After seeing it in person, it's definitely not as bad. I do wish the grille was a little bit smaller and there wasn't all this down here on the bottom, but they do make a piano black option for all the JDM S4 stuff, so we can swap all that over. If we come in here and we pop the hood, because I know that's what a lot of people like. This is one of the main reasons I wanted to get this car. I wanted to be able to experiment and play with the FA24. If you don't know a lot about this engine, it's a 2.4 liter flat four. It's Subaru's new design. It's direct injected, a twin scroll low mount turbocharger right off of the exhaust manifold way down there on the bottom of the car. Overall, the engine layout and the architecture is pretty similar to that of an FA20. It's obviously identical to that of the FA24 that I had in the BRZ when I had that car when it first came out, but I'm very excited to play with this. I know that these things are making decent power with basic bolt-ons. Now, I don't expect EJ numbers out of an FA-based car unless you're willing to spend a lot of money, because the big problem these engines run into is the fueling. You have direct injection in these. If you want big power, I'd say anything north of 600 horsepower, you're looking at adding port injection. Once you get to that point of adding port injection and controlling direct injection, you're looking at a standalone, and really the only standalone option for that right now is Motec, which you're looking at, what, minimum $8,000. So the goal for this car is maybe $550 maximum out of it, but I think even 550 is kind of pushing it, maybe just 500, but we'll see as time goes on and as we continue to modify the car. For the time being, we can't even tune this car. Cobb has not released the tuning software for the 2023 WRXs yet. We're just gonna be making it look better because right now in that department it needs some help. Overall, the interior of this thing isn't terrible. The steering wheel has like a decent ergonomic layout to it. The dash, it's kind of like base Impreza feeling to me. It's just my personal preference. Some people may like it. I don't hate it. It's just very like base car feeling. This is the main reason why I wanted the premium model over the base model. The base model, it essentially is just like this screen cut in half with two screens, where the bottom screen controls climate control. The top screen is like all your infotainment, Starlink, all that kind of stuff. Now, when I bought this car, I didn't know that it came with heated seats because it's kind of just like tucked down here on the very bottom of the screen. That is one thing that I still have not gotten used to. If you guys look at my VA STI here, you'll see it still has all like the traditional buttons and knobs. On this car, it's like this weird setup where you pull up a screen and it's all touch screen slider. It's a little bit annoying to control when driving. I know there's updates for this to be able to update it to make things a little more ergonomic and a little bit better feeling. I just didn't want to do that yet till after we made this video, so that way you guys can see the car totally stock before I start modifying this thing. The sound of the car isn't too terrible. Here's a couple sound clips of just it revving. Everything is stock right now, so here's a couple sound clips of it just revving with the stock exhaust and a couple little flybys. Now we'll go out and go drive this thing around a little bit. Before we do that, I do want to preference it. This car feels very underwhelming. The overall body of it feels bigger, and it is bigger than my VA STI. My VA STI feels a little bit smaller, but you got to remember that the new WRX is on Subaru's global platform, so it shares a lot with literally every other model. The Ascent, the Crosstrek, I believe the Impreza, the Legacy, the WRX, they all commingle relatively closely with the architecture of the car, and because of that, this car it physically just feels bigger when driving it. The boost response, it does feel very linear, but it's also very kind of meh in stock form, and it doesn't like give you that kick like an STI or an older WRX would, even compared over to like an FA20 WRX, the later generation after they fixed the rev hang. And the early model FA20 WRXs, they did have a decent amount of rev hang, and it was quite annoying to drive those, and a tune would fix them. And I'm assuming a tune will fix a lot of the little gripes that I have with the driving experience of the car right now, but it just feels very lackluster and underwhelming. When I think of WRX, I don't think of this, like an economy feeling car. Like, it feels like an economy car that I'm driving around right now. But it's not a bad thing. We can fix all that with tuning. It's just in the stock form. Like, comparing this over to like our stock Mark 7 GTI, the GTI, it like delivers like an actual like punch where you're like, wow, okay, this thing feels fun. And this car, it's like, it's kind of boring. The transmission, still not a huge fan of these 6 speeds. The cable driven WRX 6 speeds, I've never been a huge fan of. We will be swapping this out for an STI 6 speed R180 rear differential, Brimbos, all that stuff in the future. But for now, we're just kind of focused on the cosmetics of the car up until we can get that software when Cobb releases it, so that way we can start tuning. But I think that's enough talking. Let's go drive this thing a little bit. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that the car is like super slow, because I don't think it is. I mean, I don't think it is just like a very slow car. What is it? It makes like 3 more horsepower than the last generation of the WRX did. The power does feel very linear, but it's not like that kickback that you would normally get out of like a Subaru turbo experience. It's more like it feels like a naturally aspirated like V6 kind of feeling, if that makes sense. And I know with just like a flash, it really wakes these up quite a bit, especially with people doing like E30 tunes, all that kind of stuff. But it still just, it gives me like very ergonomic vibes. The interior of the car reminds me a lot of if a VA WRX, and when I say a VA WRX, if you don't know what that means, it just means the prior generation, the 2015 to the 2021 WRX, a VA WRX, a Crosstrack, and like an Impreza all had a baby, and this is what the baby would be. Now, I do think that the overall driving experience of the car, it's very comfortable, and it's not like it's not fun. I was just expecting a little bit more out of it. The blinkers one that still gets me, it reminds me a lot of the 2023 or 2022 BRZ that I had with the turnstock, where it doesn't have like the hardcore detents like it would on like another driving stock, where if you push it down, it has the click, like the dedicated, like, you know what I mean? But you get used to that. It does have like the quick touch lane change capabilities and whatnot. It's not bad. It picks up quick, and I will give it this. I am very appreciative that Subaru got rid of the rev hang on these cars for the most part, unlike they did in the early generation VA WRXs. But I'm not gonna sit here and tell you the car doesn't put a smile on my face. Like, it is a fun car. One thing that does bother me, on the center screen here up at the top, you can have a couple gauges. I have water temp, oil temp, and accelerator pedal position up there right now. For the one that bothers me is water temp. It doesn't actually tell me the water temp. It just says normal, and I'm assuming if the car is too cold or too hot, it just says cold or hot or danger or something. I don't know what it says when it's too hot, because obviously it does never gotten to that point, but I just wish they would actually put the temperature. And I get why they put normal, but if they would have just had an option in the menu to be able to change that to an actual temperature reading, that would have been nice, because for someone like me, I want to know the water temperature if it gives me the option. But to just say normal, like, it's understandable, because for the average Joe who may be buying this car, they don't know what like 205 degrees would be, 210 degrees, 195 degrees would be for these cars. They're just gonna see a temperature, they're gonna be like, I don't know if that's normal or not. So I get why they put the normal there, but it still kind of bothers me. Like they did it with oil temperature. They put the actual oil temperature up there. Like, why not just do it for both? Like, either make both say normal, or just make both be able to read, or just give me the option. Give me the option to be able to change it all. I recently found out also that this has like a smart high beam feature, I believe is what it is. There's a camera up here behind the rear view mirror, and I didn't notice this when I went to buy the car. I have a buddy who works at Subaru and actually told me about this, because I asked him, I was like, what is the point of this camera? It's a manual transmission car. It's not like it has eyesight. I don't know if it has like adaptive cruise control or something along those lines. And I asked him, and apparently it's for the high beams in the car. So they have an adaptive smart high beam system, where if you have your high beams on and that camera detects a car coming at you, I don't know at what distance or what interval, it'll swap the high beams off and go back to the low beam. And then once that car passes, it'll go back to the high beam. So it's kind of a nice little feature. Didn't know about that, but it's kind of cool. Making my way downtown, walking fast. faces pass and I'm on like doodle-doodle-doo, and I need you doodle-doodle-doo. Overall, I'm pretty happy with my experience in the car. It feels like the most tamed WRX I've ever had. I've had every generation of these cars at this point, and this one feels like the most toned down, tamed, broad spectrum WRX, if I can make it sound like that. The first car that comes to mind, if I think WRX, this is probably the last one that comes to mind. It's so toned down from what WRXs used to be, in my opinion. The styling is a lot more, consumer friendly, I guess would be the right word, where it appeals to a broader audience, but at the same time it also doesn't appeal to a broader audience, because I feel like to the older Subaru enthusiasts, the people who've liked these cars for a long time, it's outside of the realm of what they typically go for. And this happens with every Subaru generation that comes out. Every time a new generation gets released, everyone hates it, then it starts to grow on people. Some people, it never grows on, they hate them forever, which is totally understandable. When the VA, WRX, and STI came out, I hated them. I thought they looked hideous. Now my 2017 STI is my favorite car that I've had for Subaru. Now, I've seen people say this is the greatest WRX produced by Subaru. I personally would disagree with that statement. In stock form, I don't think so. If I were to have any stock form Subaru and call it the greatest, I would pick like an 07 STI. I think that's just the pinnacle of Subaruing. Great transmission, solid engine, good looking car, all about it. So we're talking stock for stock. We're not talking modified at all. I don't like, yes, features wise, rigidity wise, yeah, I get it. Technology changes, and every Subaru that they produce after the one that they produced before is going to be the greatest Subaru they've ever produced. That's just how it works. That's how technology progresses. That's how cars evolve. It's a personal opinion. I don't think it's fair to say anyone is the best. Personally, like I said, I think the 07 STI is the greatest one produced, but that's going to change with everyone's opinions. Do appreciate the fact that Subaru still puts handbrakes in these cars and doesn't do an electronic. I'm pretty sure the CVT does have an electronic handbrake, which is another reason why I didn't want a CVT or a GT. I've seen a lot of people want the Recaros are nice, don't get me wrong. I've seen those seats in the GTs. I sat in them. They are super comfortable. They are very nice seats, and I think it's a little stupid. Like, I don't know. I just think it's dumb that Subaru wouldn't put them, or at least give them as an add-on option for other trim levels. Instead, they're like, no, only the CVT option gets the nice Recaro seats, which bothers me. I will say, for the price range of this car, there's not a lot of other options out there if you're looking for something brand new. If you're looking for something used, there's plenty of options out on the market. But if you're looking for like a brand new car that's turbo, all-wheel drive sedan car, there's just not a lot of them out there. What is there? You can get, I can't even think of, like, I don't even know what else is out there as a turbo four-door sedan anymore. The other nice thing about this is that these are not like heavily sought after cars. So dealers typically have a lot of these on the lot, and they're more than enough willing to give you a deal on one if you are looking to go get one. For the price range, I mean, it's not a bad car by any means. This is not a bad car at all. I just wish that Subaru would put a little bit more focus on making the interior of the WRX feel more like a WRX versus making it feel kind of like a Crosstrack Impreza vibe, if that makes sense. I just wish there was a little more sports car feeling in this car. That's all I ask, is just give it a little bit more of a sports car feeling and less of an economy car. That's full throttle. Like, it gets up to speed quick. I am very excited to see what we can do with this car with modifications. Made it back with the WRX. I don't think it's a bad car. I just think that it's lacking a little bit, and it's nothing that we can't fix. I mean, I guess it's just the future goes on. We'll start modifying the WRX. Like I said, we'll start with cosmetics, probably some suspension, wheels, making it look better. Once Cobb comes out with that software update, we'll start going down the path of basic bolt-ons. We'll find the power limit of what the stock transmission can handle. Once the stock transmission says peace, we'll do an STI 6-speed swap in it, rear differential, DC-CD controller. I would like to do the iWire Spider one because I can utilize a stock DC-CD controller that already fits into the cubby of that car from a VA STI. So it'll just make life easy. But over the next week or so, until I get the built block back for the STI and we can start doing that 6-cylinder and getting it wrapped up and done, which I got the injectors and I swapped those out while I was at the shop earlier. We'll get that car running, and then I'm also going to be continuing to work on the RX-7. The big thing with the RX-7, a couple things actually. I messed up on building the 13B, so I need to take it apart, rebuild it. I put the cooling jacket seals in sideways, so I ordered OEM Mazda ones. I got a different brand Apex seal and OEM Mazda corner seals. They were all suggestions that people gave me while I was back in that 13B to do. Just getting like the fuel hanger, all the fun stuff done for the RX-7, because I want the RX-7 to be running by the end of the summer, which actually leads me back to the WRX for a minute. I don't think the WRX on its own is like the perfect enthusiast car. I think it's a good, if you were to have two cars, I would take the 23 WRX as like my daily, and I'd probably take the RX-7 or the STI as like my project car. Probably the RX-7 and the STI. I don't, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to pick between the two of them. I just think that it's a really good daily driver, especially once modified. I think it'll be money, and I think it'll be perfect, but in stock form, it just needs some love. So I'm excited for the FA24. You guys have been wanting FA content for a really long time. I understand it's not an FA20. Keep in mind, the overall architecture of the FA20 and the FA24 is pretty similar. So with that, that is all I've got for you guys on this one. So if you like the video, if you're excited for the FA stuff, go ahead and hit that like button, turn it black, blue, green, yellow, purple, silver, cyan, whatever color it turns for you. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you want to be, I'll put it in one of these corners. No idea which one quite yet, but with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. So peace out, homies.